one of the craziest things I also seen in San Quentin, because San Quentin was, out of all the prison, I would have to say the craziest, because everybody there was trying to live up to a rep of San Quentin, the infamous San Quentin. But but when I got to San Quentin, I didn't know anything about gays or transsexuals, transvestites, nothing, none of that. And so when I first got to the yard, I see, look like females. I'm like, is this a co-ed yard? What's going on? You know what I mean? They're like, oh no, that's a dude. I'm like, a dude, titties like this and ass. God, what's going on around here? Because in Southern California, it wasn't none of that in the Southern California prisons. And so if it was rare. And so I was like thrown off. It was really like I was scared, of these people, and there was a lot of them, and so what happened was, like I say, I was naive to them, and I was the gang leader, so we prohibited any of our gang members to even associate with the transvestites, transsexuals. And so it came a time where I had to deal with them because they ran laundry, the store, and so I would have to talk to them because I would have to say at that time I was homophobic because I was ignorant to what they was about. What happened was, what gained my respect for just the human race. Not only was they transsexual, transvestite, but they was human. But I'll never forget, it was a confrontation on the yard where two transsexuals was spatting over this dude who's supposed to be they lovers, whatever. And man, this transsexual came out with a knife this long. I'm not exaggerating nothing. And stabbed that other transsexual. I mean, it looked like it came out his other side, man. And right then and there, my respect for the human race was at its utmost. Because, I mean, this had titties like this, ass, looked like, I'm talking about a model in the face. It stabbed and killed this motherfucker. To a peasant, to a king. So I'm like, man, I might have to go get some money. You know what I mean? And at the time, I had a few associates that were doing robberies. And so I went to them, and I'm like, man, y'all doing any robberies, and soon? They're like, yeah, we going tomorrow night. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come with y'all. Because they was hitting everything in Fresno and ended up doing time behind it eventually. But they called me the day before I was supposed to go with them and said, something came up, we not gonna be able to do it. And so I'm already amped. I'm like, man, I'm already amped. I had a little pistol, and I was already in my all black. And I'm like, I gotta go do something. And so I ended up riding around Fresno. Actually, I was hoping nobody was out, because I'm the type person where I'm like a machine. I'm like a android, a robot. If I'm programmed, that's what I got to do. Or I think, oh, you soft if you're, within myself. And so I was riding around. Finally, something came in me like, man, take your butt home. So I'm like, yeah, look, I'm going home. I ain't doing nothing stupid. So as I'm going home, the devil, right there, he looked at me. He said, hey, man, turn to your left. Oh, my God. This man was at an ATM, and like I say, I didn't watch a million of these type robberies, so I thought I'd do what I was doing. And so I'm like, man, I'm talking to myself, too. I'll never forget. I say, why this man got to be outside at midnight? And I'm like, as I'm talking, I'm busting a U-turn. And so I get out the car and run up to him and put the gun to his head and like, go ahead and get all the money out this ATM. And what's the number? What's the PIN number? And so he's shaking. He gave me all that. And so I run, get in the car. And it was meant for me to go to prison because it was just weird. After I robbed him, I went and got in the car around the corner. and left down the street, and he just so happened see the license plate and call it in. After that, I didn't see the streets for 7 years. But the court process on that, it was shrewd. It was the worst experience I ever experienced in court because I experienced like 3 times after that. But what happened was because I was 19 and going to college, a deal was on the table for 2-year joint suspension. It was funny because I could have bailed out for $2,000 on my case. But my parents like, we go bail you out. I'm like, oh no, I'll stay in here. I'm all right. And then my time is going to be accounted for if I do get some time. Who does that? You know what I mean? Most people want to get out. When I went to preliminary hearing, all my fraternity brothers came. My mother, father drove in from Oakland. And it was, I never forget. That's why I say I've never been prejudiced because this black young sister that was a district attorney, she came, oh, it's a deal on the table, 2-year joint suspension. I was like, hurry up, bring that paper. I signed it with the quickness, right? Because I was going to get out on probation. So everybody cheering in the crowd, yeah, he getting out, ooh. Happy, right? So she looked around in the crowd. She said, let me check with the office with my superior. Let's take a recess. So she came back. We came back in like 2 hours. I already knew in my spirit that it was about to go bad. And so we came back to court after recess. She said, yeah, I made a mistake. We want to give him 5 years CYA, youth authority in 5 years. So everybody already in jail had already put it in my head that if I go to CYA, I ain't gonna get out for years after that 5 years, And so I'm like, I ain't going no YA, right? And so I'm like, let's go to trial. So the judge, everybody came to me and like, you sure you want to go to trial? They tried to talk me into taking the 5 years, which at that time, and I didn't know, 85% had started the month I got my case. And so I didn't know that. And so they was acting like I was going to be able to do half of the 5 years, which would have been 2.5. But I had already been down at that time about 6 months. So I refused the deal, went to trial, lost. And it was a terrible experience, man. Especially I always held a grudge against that district attorney because she was young and it was like she was just smirking and giggling at me. So the guys in Southern California in prison, man, they was serious about fitness, bodybuilding, man. It was crazy. You had guys that were in movies that worked out with Arnold, Lou Ferrigno, that worked out at Venice Gold. And so they was serious. They knew all about training. So for me, I was 19 years old when I hit prison. And I was already buff. I looked like a competitive bodybuilder because I always knew how to train right and eat right. And so I just came in and gravitated towards the fitness world. And at that time, a lot of people didn't do legs. And so they like, oh, you're the youngster from Fresno State. Well, yeah, we want to work out with you. I'm like, hey, man. And this how I used to deter everybody from working out with me. I'm like, hey, man, I do legs twice a week. And so they like, oh, no, we cool. We don't mess with them legs. We don't need what we need big legs for. And we used to work out every day of the week, 7 days a week, no rest days. And so unless somebody got carpal tunnel or something in their wrist or sick with valley fever or something, that's the only way we didn't train. And so I was used to that in Southern California, the fraternizing of fitness. So when I get to San Quentin, Northern California, I'm thinking the same thing. Man, I'm looking on the yard, there's hardly it's like every race but the black race was into fitness. And this was odd to me because everywhere I had been in Southern California, which I had been to Wasco, Delano, Tehachapi, and everybody was serious about training. So when I got to San Quentin, everybody walking around kind of skinny. You only see a few, especially black people, that's in shape, but I see every other race working out, training like crazy. So I'm like, what's going on around here? And so when I come to find out, in Northern California, they was getting heroin, they was getting crack, all these drugs that the Southern California guys didn't want no parts of. The Southern California guys, when they came to jail, they used that as a rehabilitation to get they swole on, to get big and buff. You had some guys in Northern California like that, but it was just a trend of drug users that was in Northern California. So me as a gang leader, most of the gang members was drug addicts from the street. So this was tough on me because my gang, we had a hands-on policy. If you didn't adhere to the rules, which working out was one of the laws to be in this gang, then we would beat you down, possibly stab you if you, transgressed or if you tried to fight back. So it was tough for me, man, especially, to see that and have to fight with guys to exercise, which exercising wasn't just to be buff. Exercising was in case you got in a riot, you had your wind, you had your cardiovascular, you had your strength. So it just wasn't for the vanity muscles development. It was for, your body was your weapon in prison. So when I got close to my release date, they call it short time fever. And I didn't know what they was talking about. I had friends that got out before me, and right before they go home, they would do something stupid. They'd get in a fight, playing basketball, they'd get in a fight on the basketball court, or just stupid. I mean, nothing they did their whole time they would do and go to the hole, lose time. So I'll never forget, I was at Solano State Prison, that's close to Sacramento. And a week before, no, it was like 2 days before I was to go home, I'm on the basketball court. I hadn't been on the basketball court in 7 years of being in prison. And so it was just that nervous energy, anxiety, scared, because I was scared. Because like I say, I was institutionalized my first month incarcerated. So all my friends that was getting out was getting killed or getting life in prison. So that fear was there, like, dang, am I gonna end up like them? They seemed like they was, had their head on straight and they dead or just got life. So that fear was there. I was actually scared to get out. And so back to the basketball court, I was on the basketball court and cat was going up to shoot the ball, and I slapped the ball out of his hand, and he turned around like he was tough, and I grabbed his neck. This is 2 days before getting out. So all my gang associates grabbed me like, bruh, you about to get out, what you doing? I'm like, man, I don't care about getting to the streets. I don't care about the streets. And that was my verbatim words, is that I didn't care about going to the streets. And I'll never forget that. And, when I look back on it, being institutionalized is just crazy, man.